session Monday, August 31st, 2020, 6 p.m. Anamosa Library and Learning Center via Zoom. 1.0 roll call.
Trump.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Lockhart.
Here.
Silva.
Here.
Stout.
Here.
Capron.
Here.
Note all council members were present. 2.0 street department discussion. Before we get into the discussion, it's a rather broad agenda item. I would ask, what would be our primary reason for meeting, or what's our primary topics of discussion? What are we looking to achieve tonight?
In my opinion, I think that because of what we're doing as a city, we've got a lot of huge, large projects. And one of the things that comes up in our meetings quite often, I think, is finding ways to be more frugal with our expenses, saving money. And the street department is primarily the topography side of our city department. And what we're hoping, or what I'm hoping anyway, is that we can discuss and maybe find some ways to keep the work inside the department rather than going outside of the department, and suggestions for ways that possibly we could save money. I know you spend a lot of time out there watching what's going on, so you would probably be a lot better at picking up on some things that we could do that would save money. But that's my opinion.
I can tell you how I've been through 6 budgets. I think this is my 7th budget, and I've never ever had a budget amendment because I overspent. I've had talks with the mayor and the city administrators and stuff, and unfortunately, it's kind of become Greg's landscaping and land care service. We haven't had nobody over the cemetery for 3 years, so it's been our responsibility to take care of that and mow it. We also, besides our normal properties, we also inherited all the water and all the wastewater mowing and weeding. And it adds up to a ton of hours. And we would rather be doing concrete, doing sidewalks, doing stuff like that. Our city sidewalks are really good. But a lot of our time is just basically taking up doing that. Shelley has stepped in and volunteered to take over some of our properties that we were mowing, which really helped out on freeing up some time so we can do some other projects.
So do you think we're using our employees wisely by putting them mowing, or is there a less expensive way labor-wise to accomplish the same goal?
I think that we could put some part-time or seasonal people on at a lot lesser pay because they don't hire somebody that still is our responsibility. And I'm going to make sure that it gets mowed and taken care of.
Yeah.
No matter what happens. If I'm paying somebody 17 something an hour, which is what I pay the guy that has been over there doing most of the mowing, or I have to send somebody over there because he's on vacation that makes $20 an hour. We're still going to get the job done.
How many hours a summer do you think you're using up?
Well, the last 3 years we had inmates that have come in and do all the weeding, so I can't say that justifying time to come back to us or see us doing that time. But the mowing generally takes somewhere between 32 and 38 hours for one person to do that whole cemetery.
Per week?
Per week, yes.
We're not able to use them right now, is that correct?
What's that?
We're not able to use the prisoners right now?
No, they're not allowed outside.
Hopefully next year we'll be able to.
Are you communicating with like Park and Rec
I know the other day, I seen you go by on a mower, which, you know, I figured you was out going out Iowa Street and Cherry Street and mowing that, and then the next day, here come two park and rec guys doing the same thing.
Well, they're not mowing the same areas. We're doing, like, I was on the tractor, so I was mowing the steep ditches and stuff out on the cemetery, and then doing the levees and stuff like that. They were out there doing, like, out Iowa Street, and then up on the, by the corner of Cherry and where the, State Road comes out, and then behind your place, we got that Z pattern out there with.
What were you doing out there?
What's that?
What were you doing out there?
I was out mowing all the, along Cherry Street towards the bridge. You can't mow that with a zero turn on them hills.
Well, did they come by with a tractor and a zero turn?
Well, they came down and they asked me to borrow a tractor and a zero turn, and that's what they took from the shop.
Well, then it needs to have communication that, because it didn't make any sense for me to see somebody go by with one mower and then have somebody come by the next day with two and do the same thing. I mean,
We're all mowing different areas. What they're using, they come down and borrow my equipment, and that's fine. They can take
Well,
whatever piece of
I
equipment
understand
they
you're
want.
doing different areas, but why? I mean, you were there, why couldn't you just do it all then? Or they had a tractor.
That's something that Shelley and I worked out, that she would take over part of the mowing in order to free us up so we can help Shelley in different projects, which you have been. But this week, we're gonna be hauling, or hopefully this week, or maybe the beginning of next week, we're gonna be hauling line to all the ball fields and spreading all that stuff out for them.
I understand that, but that's part of the job. When I first started there, it's damn near 20 years ago now, we did everything. I mean, we hauled sludge out of the wastewater plant. We hauled for the ball diamonds. We plowed snow, of course. We did everything. We poured cement. We used the asphalt machine in the alleys. In fact, we did some of the side streets with the asphalt machine. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. If we're paying these people to do it, but yet they're not doing it, we might as well not have that many.
We're paying people not to do what?
Not to do their jobs. Basically, they're just mowing. And Shelley can do it. I mean, to me, that just doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's fine, and we worked out part of that to free up some of our time so we can do that. When we got all of ours, we got nobody at the cemetery, and we took over all the water and all the wastewater mowing.
Well, it just still doesn't make any sense.
We're still able to throw a small project here and there, but basically most of our time was spent mowing and weed eating.
But it just didn't make any sense for a mower to be there and not do it all. And then, okay, you left, and then you got two more coming there and doing it. Where they could have just done it all at the beginning.
Well, that's what the council wants, is for them to do it all. That's fine too. That'll free up a lot more time for us for doing the stuff that we need to do.
Like what?
Streets.
What are the stuff that you need to do that's going by the wayside when you're mowing?
Well, we're not getting concrete for it. We had some streets up here that we're just redoing. We had to sub out the concrete work on them because we didn't have time to get it done. We got tree trimming, we gotta get done, all the things that, responsibilities that we have as the street department. You know, we don't have a little 3-acre facility. We go from Highway 64 and out on Cass Highway and from J&P cycles all the way to the back of the cemetery. So we basically have the storm drains and everything from the grass up. It's our responsibility.
Well, Greg, a couple things. You're saying this year because you took over all the lawn mowing that you can't do this. What about in the previous years?
The previous years, we were pouring concrete and doing stuff like that. It takes up a lot of time.
I was seeing other people coming in and doing it.
It depends what they were doing. They might have been doing it for Jimmy and stuff like that. I mean, they don't do all their own.
Well, they were patching up water main breaks and sewer breaks.
Mhm.
Why weren't you doing it?
I don't know. That was all contracted out. That didn't have anything to do with it. I
Well,
wasn't involved in it.
It was part of your street department. You should have been doing it.
I don't know. I wasn't involved in that aspect of it. Just like this year, when they had the water main breaks and stuff. I went out and got the estimates for Jacob, I turned them all into him, and then the rest of it was between him and Jim what happened. That was what they wanted.
Well, I want to go back to the cemetery because I'm looking at Parks and Recs monthly report from June, and it said boys trimmed and mowed cemetery on June 15th, and then on June 16th, it says boys finished cemetery. I don't know how many boys that entailed, but that's only 2 days of activity that says that they finished it within 2 days.
Generally 4 or 5 kids. Takes them about 5 hours each day is what they do. They do the bottom part one day, they do the top the next day. So you're looking right around 45, 50 hours of just weeding. And then you got another 32 plus hours on the mowing.
So wouldn't it make more sense then to hire those part-time kids to do the mowing?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
That'd be great. I mean, I didn't ask to get the mowing and all that put on me. It was put on me.
right,
I didn't ask for it.
right.
We'd much rather be out doing trimming trees, doing concrete work and clean the storm drains and that kind of stuff. That's what we should be doing as a street department. Plus, along with helping like Shelley, helping her out whenever we can, you know, doing the haul of lime or last year we were cleaning out, what is that? Strawberry Hill? No, not Strawberry Hill. We brought the skid steer up, cleaned all that rock up, and stuff. St. Pat's. You know, hauling all that stuff with. Well, that's the kind of stuff we'd rather be doing.
So you'd rather be helping Parks and Rec, how about water and wastewater?
Yeah, if they need help, I don't have a problem.
Because,
As long as they give us a little bit of notice. A
well,
lot of times, like the last time they called me up, they said, hey, we need guys to haul sleds today. You know, I already dispatched my guys out to help out and stuff like that. I don't understand. I guess what I don't understand is we used to run 2 people in all the departments. And then they went to 3 people. And then now the wastewater has 4 people and they still, and they still can't do their job or something. I don't
Well,
understand that.
we're not talking about whether or not they can do their jobs. We're talking about streets tonight. So
I
in the
don't
past,
mind helping anybody out.
well, because in the past years, if they had a water main break and they needed something hauled away, they always had to call in Rickless because you wouldn't give them trucks to haul stuff away.
That's not true. That was their choice. We actually went up and helped them, and it was up on Broadway Street, and Jim was mad as hell because our little 1-tons only, our trucks, they're just single axle. They only haul 8
Right.
tons. Okay, so they're hauling all the sludge and stuff out, and then they turn around, they gotta go wash that truck out and stuff before they bring the rock back in. And Jim's like, this ain't gonna work. We need a tandem in here so we can get all the rock and stuff, everything done at once, because they were sitting there waiting on us. And Rickless gets paid by the hour. So it wasn't us.
So you only had 1 truck?
What's that?
How many trucks does the city have down there?
You know how many we got?
Well,
We got 4 of them.
you just said you had to come back and wash it out and go get rock.
Right.
That's only 1
If you're
truck.
hauling sleds with 2 trucks, you still gotta come back and wash the truck out. It's all full of muck.
Before you can go get more, when you got 2 other trucks sitting there,
It was after hours. We didn't bring everybody in, the whole crew in.
you're telling me that them guys couldn't get out of their truck, go get some rock, come back, dump it, go get into their other truck and wash it out?
I'm not.
So, okay, how many trucks were running? 2 trucks?
2 trucks.
So you had 2 empty trucks that were clean that they could have used to go back and get the material to bring back and fill in.
Probably, yeah.
So then they could have just switched out trucks, cleaned up the other one later on.
The next day or whenever, yeah,
Yeah, whenever.
probably. They could have.
Did you offer that as an opportunity?
No. I was working for Jim at the time. I was doing what Jim was telling me.
Well, I would, you know, going back to Rod's original question.
Yeah, that's what I was-
My opinion on this is to kind of set some goals for the streets department going forward. Not to get in on any one specific, but overall goals, tying it back to job descriptions and potentially saving the city money as we move forward. That's kind of what I'm looking for here.
So it, you know, if the rest of the council would favor that, I would like to make this evening more of a working session and not a gripe session. So that way there can be something accomplished, as well as, you know, something that'll have a positive impact as we move forward.
And I, for one, apologize.
If I'm hearing what everybody's saying, cutting in between, reading between the lines, and this includes the wastewater department and the water department. I think one of our problems is probably communication. Greg had brought up a couple instances where it sounds like there wasn't the right communication. And I think that can be solved easily just simply by maybe having a work session with all the departments once we get this part figured out. Another thing I heard that I'm getting is there are places where we can start using prisoners again when this stupid Chinese thing goes away. Plus possibly looking into finding part-time summer help. A lot of kids come out of high school, they want something to do. So that would save us some money. The street department, I think what I'm hearing is we would like to see it concentrate more on the concrete work and the streets, the sidewalks, cement work, and things like that. Greg said it's hard to do. I think we've got some ideas here that we can use that for. And the other thing that I'm hearing here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Rich, you brought it up, is sharing equipment. I think that's a good idea, and I do think that we need to, I would still like to see, and I don't know what you think about this, but in the Army, I didn't like much of what the Army did. But the one thing they had right was a department that when you needed a truck, you went and got a truck. And when you're done with it, you took it back, and somebody there was responsible for taking care of it and getting it gassed up and ready to go. We could probably eliminate some of the equipment we got and still be able to do the job because there's some overlap. I would like to see a motor pool set up in our city rather than each department have it. You're going to need special equipment like your street sweeper and things like that. The water department needs their pump and everything, but I think we can probably eliminate some of the equipment and save some money there and use it more wisely.
Well, in my opinion, it's all city equipment.
Yeah.
You know, Shelley comes down, the other day we took the skid steer up and showed them how to use it. They come down and got our John Deere with the drag on the back, and stuff like that. I mean, it's city equipment. If anybody needs to use the stuff, you know, they can use it.
So I think
Truck or mowers or anything.
I think we pretty much got it solved right here. Just what I'm hearing. I'm simplifying it. I'm taking out the complaints. I think we could work this out easily, but I do think later on, once we discuss a few things here, we should probably bring in the other two departments and sit down and say, okay, how are we going to make this idea of ours work? Does that make sense to you guys?
To a certain level, I think there are some things that the other departments might need to be a part of, like every time a street is blacktopped, getting the manholes raised, you know, don't do it later on because it costs more to do it at the same time.
Correct.
You know, we need to have everybody working together, not, I do my project now, we gotta fix it.
That's where the communication, I
These
think,
guys
comes
were
in.
notified last year of the projects and what was gonna be done. And the easiest way to do them projects, if you're gonna come in and concrete them like they have been, is to come back and cut the concrete out or cut the asphalt out just around it, because it's not a very big chunk that they take out and then concrete it. If you concrete it first, then you gotta go up, they're gonna go up to that, that manhole, and then they gotta pick the whole machine up and then go across. They can't just lay asphalt right across the new concrete and the lid and everything. I know Bryce has a new machine that he just got. It's like a huge bore, and they put it right over top the manhole, and they drill down. It picks up all the concrete, the asphalt. It picks up the lid, everything. It takes it completely off. Then you put your new lid in, raise it up to where it's supposed to be, and then they concrete around it. But actually, the actual proper way to do it and the best way is to do it after you do the street.
Well, we need to have those guys here to just have that discussion.
Well, that's true to do it that way. It's the way you always did. We did it ourselves, not pay Bryce, because it was what, 21,000 for Sycamore when they did that. You know, in the city, like Greg said, go in, saw it out, dig it out, put a riser on, put it back in and smooth it. We can do it a lot cheaper than paying Bryce. Bryce has got a good machine, I'm sure of that, but that's not cheap.
Right, we need to do more stuff in-house.
Yeah.
I agree, 110%.
So I guess, Rich, where do we start now?
Well-
I think it's time we get into our goal setting, our roles / responsibilities.
Here's what I would add, is to take a lot of that mowing and stuff off our hands. You know, once we inherited both the water and the wastewater, and nobody hired at the cemetery, that just bound us down.
Well, in that regards, I would say we leave it under streets, but we hire part-time help.
The only thing I'll caution you on is that cemetery on the hills and stuff like that, it's very dangerous. I
Well,
don't want nobody dying on my shit, Rich.
but somebody's got to mow it. So it's either we hire somebody part-time to take the pressure off of you and they're under your department. And if you feel that way on some of those hills, then maybe you put one of your veterans out there to mow that hill.
That we could do.
But you need to figure that out because it's your department. But I mean, there's no reason to have somebody who's making 20 some odd dollars an hour sitting on a lawnmower.
Was there a reason we don't contract? I know years ago we used to have the cemetery contracted out. That'd be worth.
But still, you know, not, just to let you know, even though Shelley has taken some of the areas over, we still have a lot of areas that we mow. So somebody's gonna get paid $20 an hour to mow, unless, you know.
Why don't we contract it out?
Unless we completely turn that over to bring in, I don't know, we'll have to sit down, maybe discuss it, how many part-time or seasonal people to bring in to do the job, you know what I mean?
Well, it used
Do all the mowing.
years ago, they used to hire high school kids to do all the lawn mowing. And they did all the departments that the city was supposed to do. So it wouldn't just be or hire part-time help just to do the cemetery. They would do all the mowing. The only problem I think they ran into with those kids at that time is they did not check the oil levels before they started off. So somebody would need, in the streets department, would need to do that every morning before they send them out, just to make sure that those mowers had oil in them. And they were ready to go. They were, you know, they had everything they needed.
Is there
How
an
many people do you think
age
you would need, Greg?
that one has to be to mow
many
for the
people do you
city
think you
for
would
insurance
need?
purposes?
Part-timers,
Usually they have to be
3 to 4.
3 to 4 to do everything
So,
each week.
So you'd be looking at
That's actually doable. You
Yeah.
should
most
be able to
people
find 3 to 4
graduated
halfway
high
decent.
school, not
Or
Kids that want to work.
going in,
or
just, you know,
college students. Yeah.
Bottom part. Well, it takes one guy 4 days to mow the cemetery, and that's not mowing the flats. We would run over and mow the flats for them with the zero turn while we were out.
So you need, are you talking like 3 to 4 just for the cemetery? or for
Or
everything,
like four to do all the properties.
all the properties that you're
per
doing now?
week. Yeah.
That's not that bad, if we can find the people to do it.
And these would be under the street department or under?
They'd be under streets.
I think so.
I mean, and let me just say, it doesn't necessarily have to be high school kids. It could be retired guys too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it probably can't be high school kids. They probably have to be
Well,
18 for insurance
or
purposes.
just graduated, but, I mean, what I'm saying is it doesn't necessarily always have to be young
Yeah.
kids. It could be teachers that are off school for the summer. It could be anybody.
I like
A couple
that.
years ago, just to let you know, a couple years ago, we did put an ad in the paper and tried to hire, and we ended up with one guy who had just had no WI and had no driver's license, and we had one 16-year-old kid that had never been on a machine before. So, not saying they can't be hired, Rich. I'm just saying that's what we came up with the last time.
Well, and I don't know what you were looking for at that time, but I think it's worth it.
Seasonal cemetery.
But it's worth it. It's worth an effort. And if we can't find it, then maybe we look at contracted.
Well, and the one thing you do too is you go to the schools and talk to the principal and discuss the possibility of maybe a month or so before the end of the school year or in the spring, just pass it around to all the kids that the city is looking for people to mow, and this is how much we'll pay per hour. $10 an hour or $12 an hour or something like that to a high school kid is a lot of money. And if you tell them,
What do you pay your seasonal?
I'm gonna lose all mine.
No, I
Yeah.
understand, but what on average during the summer?
750.
Like 750.
We start at 750.
so if they know what they're getting paid, dollar sign looks a lot better than we're looking for some help. So I mean, that's a possibility. We could get in there early and grab some of these kids before they find something else to do.
Well, and the thing is we haven't done it for so long that it's gonna, maybe that first year might be slow to start, but if we can get one or two in, then the next year they may say to their friend, hey, and we start building up a pool of people that want to come and work.
Here's something else that I'm kind of wondering too. Once this COVID thing's over, we will start discussing with the prison, getting some of their more well-behaved inmates to work for us and maybe mow. I don't know if we're gonna want to mix the inmates with the high school kids.
Well, I tell you what, we
What's your opinion?
we tried that with inmates, and you can only leave about 10% of what an inmate tells you, number one. And, oh yeah, I work for a lawn service and everything else. We put him on a zero turn, he ran right into a tree. We stuck another one on a mower out by tap pins and said, here you go, show him how to operate. There's a drop off about like this, where over there where the parking went right straight over the top. But I would trust a kid before I put an inmate on a mower. But inmates work slower too, you gotta understand that. These young kids that she puts out there in the cemetery, there's no way I could possibly keep up with them. When the inmates, it takes them, they work at half the speed of what them young kids do.
Well, one of your experienced guys, I mean, I know it's gonna be we'd have to pay him to do it, but for a couple of weeks at least, it probably would be a bad idea to have him out there supervising and kind of correcting things and helping the kids get on the right path on that thing. But I think that's one way of keeping you guys where you want to be rather than out there cutting grass. Are there any other places that would help tree things up so you can do more of the street work?
That's the main thing.
That's the main thing.
That's the main thing.
Okay.
Something to consider. I mean, if we couldn't keep up with grass mowing this year and we had a drought all year, we didn't have much mowing, how's it gonna be on a normal, a year where we get rain?
And I don't know, we must be lucky at St. Pat's, them prisoners work hard. I've been out there with Bob Capron manages them. And then maybe we're lucky and got good ones, but them guys, Bob said they are amazing, how hard they do work.
I've talked to Bob several times, the same inmates that go in both places.
I don't know, he has all the good luck with them.
Up there, not near the size of the cemetery we got, that's one of the things. By the time they went there to mow, to weed eat, they'd already been through us, so usually we got them 2 days a week.
Question. sewer line break. Dan gets notified that there's a sewer line break. Does anybody else, any of the other departments does the street department get notified, or is it just Dan?
You mean on the onset?
On the onset, it'd just be Dan, correct?
Probably.
I think his next responsibility, as he's walking out the door heading for it, is to notify the street department. So Greg's got some time to plan, and Dan can be saying, hey, I'm heading out to fix a sewer line. We'll have it done in such and such a time. So I think, like I said in the very beginning here, I think communication is one of the things that's creating most of our problems.
Well, and with that though, I've heard that we've had either sewer line or water line breaks, and they've called down for road closed signs and have been denied from the street department, so then they have to go out and rent them. So,
That's not true.
I've heard that several times. Several times, so don't say it's not true.
Let's, again, I would really like council to stay on a task tonight to, set goals, objectives, policies, procedures, and do as much as we can to stay away from discussing past scenarios that have, whether they have occurred or not occurred. So far, we've been 30 minutes into this, and I'm sorry, I do not find the last 30 minutes productive.
Well, Brian, if we don't discuss the past, we can't go to the future.
Well,
And I was responding to Al, so we're getting there.
well, I would have thought prior to tonight, we would have had an idea of what what setting these responsibilities and goals were.
Well,
It
this
just
is a
doesn't
work
appear to
session
be
to
that.
discuss.
I think Greg said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but I think he said, you made the point when you and I were talking that the equipment down there, or in any department, is the city's.
Right.
So if, for example, the sewer department has a break and they need to get some cones to set around there, can they just stop there and pick them up?
Yeah.
Okay. They have a key to get in.
Yeah.
If you're not there.
Yeah.
Then I think the problem's solved. At that point, they're taking all the stuff that they need, and maybe they should have their own cones and setting in the trailer that they go to do the repairs for. I don't know.
They do now.
Okay, so now we've got cones around there. The only thing they need to do now is contact Greg and say, we're going to cut into the street. How do you want us to do it? Possibly, unless they already know. I don't know.
Usually it's, they'll figure out where it's at. Sometimes they cut it in the street, sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they end up having to cut a trench for a ways.
Before they take it out. If they don't cut it beforehand, then when they go to repair it, they'll come back and cut it and everything.
Yeah, I do know at one point, one of them told me that, I think I was talking to Dan, he said they ended up cutting a trench because it was coming out in one place, but it was actually in a totally another one.
Right, sometimes that does happen.
But
So, the large areas.
the only thing we need to worry about then is the two departments coordinating and saying, well, once we get this done, here's what you guys are gonna be hauling. Ask them, when do you need the gravel here? And then when they're done, they go and you take care of the putting the street back together. It sounds pretty simple to me. Going it to you? Yeah.
Going with the theme of assisting the departments, I've heard this a few times, but like when the storm came through, I know wastewater was hauling brush, but I've heard on a number of occasions that we haven't been able to use the city trucks to haul the sludge. Is that misunderstanding, or because I don't
They
get?
they can use the trucks if they want. All I ask is that they clean them up.
We end up hiring Boomerang though.
Well, if you look, but you gotta understand, you gotta look at how much Boomerang and a semi can haul. They can haul like 5 to 6 times what we can in one of our looking trucks. And Dan's got, usually what it does is they got a semi running, And Dan, usually hauls in one truck. And then, last year I had Shane over helping him haul in the other dump truck.
But they didn't use any of your trucks.
What's that?
They didn't use any of your trucks?
He didn't ask for any of my trucks, he asked for a driver.
Well, with that, I would say, yeah, I agree, Boomerang can haul more sludge at one time with their semi. But if we have all 6 of our trucks running, that's the less we have to pay Boomerang. And we've got the trucks, we've got the manpower, we should be using it.
What's Boomerang charge per load?
I don't know per load.
They don't, I don't think they charge by, they charge by the hour.
By the hour? What's he charge by hour? Any idea?
I think it's 150.
150?
You can make,
I mean,
Somebody needs to
that
sit
last
down.
bill we paid was $3,700.
Somebody
And
needs to
I'm-
sit down and calculate what he charges and how long it takes and what it would take. And Greg could probably calculate what it would cost for him to do the same job. And then we would know which way is cheaper.
There's one element here, I wanna make sure everybody understands this, okay? And I'm not sure everybody does. Do you know what sludge is?
Yeah.
It's human feces.
It's dirt once it leaves the plant.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else, but I really don't want to come home at the end of the day from washing a truck out covered in human feces. If you'd like to volunteer and come down and wash the trucks for us, let me know.
It wouldn't bother me to do it.
How-
I'm a farm boy.
Right.
I've smelled like hog manure. I
Yeah,
got
I
it.
do.
It's
Manure is manure.
actually that sludge that he's got is safer than the hog manure that I used to handle because of the way it's treated when it comes out of the plant. I do know that. You know, I understand you've got a fetish about, you don't like that stuff, and I understand that. I'm not confronting you on that. But I've been through that plant and asked enough questions to know that when that sludge comes out of the plant, it's cleaner than the stuff that I cleaned up in the hog floor. But it is, the thought of picking up somebody else's poop is not exactly the most, I wouldn't want to be thinking about it while I'm eating breakfast. I'll say that.
Really?
A good pressure washer will clean that off.
Because just standing back, I mean, I get the Boomerang's efficient and they're hauling the sludge. I know last week they were hauling the brush. So it comes down to, what do we basically use the truck for snow plows and for the most part? I mean, because if we're not hauling sludge and we're not hauling brush, I mean, at least from the big piles.
We were still hauling brush. We hauled the brush for 2 weeks. We hauled brush
To the pile, but from the
With
pile.
No. We didn't take it to pile. We took it to Norland's Quarry. So we hauled brush ourselves for 2 weeks to Norland's Quarry. What the people brought down from town and dropped off, that's what the pile was down there. That probably would have took us 2 weeks to haul. Or that whole amount of brush down there. In 2014, when the big storm come through, we did it the same way. We had Bryce come in and help us haul the brush out. Because he can haul so much more than semis. But no, when we were doing concrete projects and stuff like that, we were hauling our own stuff out. We were hauling our own rock and everything back in. We was hauling cold packs. We hauled cold packs and stuff with them. And then it's just a matter of, like I said, freeing up our time so we can do what we need to do.
Do we still have the frames to do sidewalks?
What's that?
Do we still have the, I don't know what they're called, frames, for lack of a better word? I don't know the terminology, to do sidewalks?
Like 2x4s?
There used to be steel ones.
Oh, no, them steel ones have been gone for years.
What happened to those?
We got rid of them at an auction.
How come?
They've been laying down there for about, I don't know how many years, all covered in mud, rust. They're old steel forms. Nobody uses them big steel ones anymore. Everybody uses, even Rogers, and then when they do these houses, they use 2x4s and stuff like that. That was all the city administrator Al Johnson. He knew about it. He knew for many auctions.
2x4s are inexpensive, and then a hose will clean the cement off right after you get it done. So I mean,
We got the ones we got now. We've been using 2x4s for
Yeah.
several years.
Did the asphalt machine break? And that's why it was removed from the city's.
No, the asphalt machine, back when they did the alley was left the way it was when it come off the alley. All covered in asphalt, the burners didn't work. It went through the 2008 flood and it's been sitting outside for 12 years. Something like that. It was junk, it was scrap. You couldn't adjust it in and out, everything was covered with asphalt, it was all rusted up.
We used it after 2008.
I don't know, that's just what Jeff told me.
No,
It was
I don't know,
in the house
Gavin
in
was there
08.
too. That's all I know.
We used it before I retired. That's only been 3 years ago.
I mean, I don't know.
I've been here 6 years and we never used that thing.
No. I know we used it less than, it was not more than 7 years ago. I know, when I said I wasn't gonna say anything, I'm not.
Well, I'm just gonna go back to what I would like to see done is I would like to see the job descriptions actually utilized. You know, where it's, part of it sits here and talks about working with other departments. How does it state it? Communicate effectively and maintain working relationships with other city employees. I'd like to see that adhered to. And I think looking at the job description items for not only the superintendent, but the workers, we need to go through these and they need to be adhered to, and we need to start doing more things in-house than contracting them out.
I agree.
How often do all the departments meet together and discuss what's going on? Do they have monthly meetings?
We haven't had no monthly meetings for quite a while.
Do you think that would be a
We used
good
to have,
idea?
we used to have them
Do
every
you think
month,
that would be a good
like
idea?
every other week or something like that. Yeah, I think it was a good thing.
Okay. I think that's something we ought to put in here too, is that there should be department meetings discussing some of the things that are going to be done that month, the month after, whatever, projects.
Well, and Greg, you said that water and wastewater were notified a year ago of you doing like Huber and whatever.
It wasn't quite a year ago,
But
it was quite some time.
But it was long enough ago that they probably forgot or didn't think about it. So if we would have had a discussion in May or June,
Right.
a little more closer to when that event was going to occur.
I did talk to them and tell them we were gonna start the project, you know, just a few days before it started, but
But if we would have talked a month in advance, so that communication might have helped that process or any
Right.
street.
Do we have a
process.
city calendar? So why aren't things like this on the city calendar so everybody can, and it's online, I assume, or should be, so everybody knows when everybody's doing everything?
sometimes
Oh.
in your like your contractors, like, you know, we got, when they were in here on Tuesday, started on Tuesday, I think it was. We got notified on, like Monday, that they were gonna be freed up to be up there to do our asphalt project, so we made up flyers and handed them out to everybody on the streets. And then we came in and put up the no parking sign. Sometimes you just don't get a lot of notification that the contractors are coming in. I'm waiting now on the North Williams project, to find out Bryce didn't tell his job foreman or whatever about the project, so I had to get a hold of the job foreman, and so he's scheduled us in at the same time they're gonna do another project in town. But unfortunately, further up the line, it caved in again, and now that storm drain blocked, and I've been trying to call that foreman all day long, and still he hasn't returned any of my calls, even though I've left messages and everything else. So that project there is gonna end up being about twice what we thought it was, because the other part of the pipe collapsed.
Well, granted, you may not know exactly when they're coming in, but you've got an idea of, oh, they're gonna be here within a month or month and a half.
Right.
So you've got an idea, so May, June, you could go to those guys, hey, Kleesner's will be here probably sometime August. Let them know and see what they have to say about whatever they gotta do. So-
Well, we should be able to do it all as part of the bid. Like, we shouldn't be adding it now.
Right.
I
It
think
should,
these
it
monthly
should
meetings.
be as part of one process to save money.
I think these monthly meetings between the departments would be a good place to start that.
Like every other week, we have a meeting with.
Yeah, or every other week. They would have an agenda,
I would think they need to be facilitated.
and I think you should be there. That's my opinion, sir.
I think it should be, it's
It's
Beth,
Beth.
it's Beth's
Or Beth.
responsibility. It's-
Yeah,
If you had like a monthly meeting with the department heads, and if, you know, get a feel for if the departments are working together or not, kind of hash it out, or just kind of see how things are going, so everybody's on the same page.
and then if they think they need to have it every 2 weeks, then every 2 weeks. I mean, there's a lot of flux between departments, especially in the street department. A lot of things going on, especially during the summer.
So I was gonna say, you were talking, vast projects that are fluid, not day by day, week by week.
But for like big things, did you say we do or do not have a citywide calendar?
We do not.
Do we have,
We don't currently.
do you use Outlook and like a mail server?
Yeah, we use Google Calendars. I mean, you can send.
Because it's not hard to set up where everybody can see, like at the bank, not little stuff, but if there's a big thing coming up this week, you put it on there and everybody knows,
Well, all you have to
It-
do is do an event and invite whoever you need to participate in.
We shouldn't even have to do an invite. It should just be like a calendar, and you can put who can see it, and then you just bring up the month and say, okay, this week is street project, or we're doing.
Well,
But isn't some of that going to be in the new accounting system?
and on your phone, I get all kinds of things from the
Yeah.
school I'm
Well,
retired
but
from about events that are going to happen at school on my phone.
Yeah, and that's gonna be part of the notification system within the new
with
accounting
the
system.
accounting. Okay, well, that'll be very
And the new
helpful.
website will have a little bit different calendar, but you're right, the Google Calendar, we just need to, I don't know, there's a lot of calendars set up in there. None of them are shared with everyone. They're all very odd right now, so it's gonna be a little.
Yeah, sounds like one would be
Yeah.
beneficial to everybody.
We don't want to put all the load on you right away. I mean, you got enough on your shoulders as it is, but it's something we should look into in the future. But in the meantime, I do think that the departments can probably solve a lot of the problems we're discussing right here in their meetings.
We're into a topic of discussion that we shouldn't even be into.
That's what I'm saying. I think they can solve the problem. We've got the
This
parameters.
should be taken care of internally.
We've discussed the parameters.
Right here.
As long as they're aware of the parameters, they should be able to handle that.
Well, let me just say, that is true, but I'm just gonna say that past administrations failed us. And we've gotta move forward.
Correct.
So we will, I'm willing to say, if you guys have your monthly meetings and then need to have a meeting in between for whatever reason, big project coming up, you need to specifically discuss it, go for it. But I think job descriptions need to be adhered to.
Like I said,
We need to keep moving forward.
if we set the parameters, I don't see a problem. And the one thing I'd like to see everybody do, I haven't seen this happen with our last administrator. Too much micromanaging. We've got people that know what they're doing in the departments. I've been paying attention to it. I've been talking to some of the employees, not just the department heads. We need to trust them. Let them do their job.
If they do it.
If something goes wrong, if a problem crops up, jump in, help them fix it, and jump back out. And just let them do their job. The big thing though, like we were talking tonight, is some of the changes we'd like to see, some of the things we'd like to have done, especially being a little more frugal with the expenses. And I'm not saying anything about your budgets. Each department sets your budgets, and I think from what I've seen, they've done real well. We just need to fine tune it. Sometimes you have to save $10 instead of 100, but you save $10. There's places where we can find ways to save the money. And I do think that this departments can do that on their own once they know what we're looking for.
Well, and I'm gonna go this way. You can always stay under the budget if you set the budget high.
That's our job, to keep sure they don't do that.
Well, but you know, it is the truth. If you set the budget high enough, you can always come in under it because there's so much stuff in that budget. So we need to observe of, okay, can we pour the sidewalk ourselves? Can we remove the asphalt from the alleys ourselves as opposed to having Pleasners do it? Are there things we can do ourselves to save that money?
Each time that happens, it's just gonna be some research. You gotta find out what it costs to hire it, find out what it costs for the departments to do it, and we make the decision.
Well, but when it's going through budget, we don't have a lot of that information. So that's why we went to
Yeah.
purchasing policy so that hopefully we can start looking at the projects on a project level as opposed to a broad spectrum.
I think part of it is communication here too. If the department heads are starting to have these meetings and the communication is working, that communication also has to be brought to us so we can see what's going on. We're the bosses. It doesn't mean that they can't do it, but I think that would make us all feel better too, seeing what they're doing.
You talking about like having to see the recap of what's discussed with the meetings or
I'd like to see a recap, you know, just a kind of a outline of what was discussed and what they were thinking about doing. If we see something that we don't like, we can ask them, why are you doing it that way, and get an explanation. My big thing is, for this thing to work, the way we want it to work, we have to learn to trust these guys and these women until they give us a reason not to trust them. And instead of looking back at what was going on before or what somebody said to somebody else that said something to somebody else, we need to start here tonight, now. Because all we're going to do if we start going back is upsetting people. And I don't want to do that. We already took care of one of the biggest problems that the city had. And I want here and everybody to prove that they can do what they say they can do. I trust. We have to trust. If we can't trust, we're wasting their time.
Well, and we've got to have everybody on the same page.
Correct.
That's the big thing, is everybody has to start working together.
That's also correct.
And all goes back to following.
So the policy or the roles, responsibilities,
Job
descriptions that you have there,
Yep.
Rich, is there anything in there that I guess that would jump out at you that needs to be tweaked or rewritten? I mean, because otherwise we have, in a sense, the documents.
I would just say, in looking at this, I would say that we need to put in here someplace to, if at all possible, do the jobs within the confines of the city. Because it doesn't really specify that they will be done. It just says, as an example here, responsible for the repair and maintenance of city equipment and vehicles. That doesn't say we're going to do it in-house. It just says they're responsible. So
So it could be sourced every time it comes up.
exactly.
Sure could, yeah.
I mean, that's the way it's worded, is responsible for establishing methods of preventative maintenance, or responsible for the repair of equipment, like I said, and so forth. So I think we need to state it's going to be done in-house, if at all possible. And if it cannot be done in-house, then we look at an outside source.
And I have no idea who drafted them. You know, it could be 15 years ago. I don't know. In defense of whomever, they probably would have thought that the supervisors would do it in-house, where it didn't have to be in text form.
Well, according to the street superintendent one, at the bottom, it's got dated 6/1/2015. So it's 5 years old.
One of the things that I've
That would be Al Johnson. I'm just trying to do the math here about what time the city administrator would have been.
one of the things I've been bringing up in meetings, and you've heard me say this before, is if a problem crops up where there's dispute, or there's questions, we can go in and alter or change the job description and give somebody that responsibility.
Well, I
We're not
think-
gonna be able to do all this tonight because we don't know what all is gonna crop up. But I do think that we've got a good place to start here.
Well, that's just it. We need to start adhering to it. And we need to probably look at water and wastewater also to see. Now, the one thing though that I would like to see us do is do storm sewer locates when they need to be done. Because we've had a couple storm sewers that have gotten drilled through that then we're responsible for repairing. If we do the locates and they get drilled through, then it's a responsibility of the company.
The one we talked about out here on Third
Any of
Street. One out on Third Street out here, we went out there and we showed them exactly where it's at. Even the guy that was operating the machine said, yeah, I knew where it's at. I just didn't go deep enough. And we ended up having to have Rickles come in and finish the picture because they didn't have anybody to do it. But I got the bill from Mr. Rickles. It was absolutely ridiculous. So I sent it back to him, and I'm waiting for that to go back. And we're planning on sending that to the company that drove through it.
But I'm not just talking about that one. I'm talking about all of them.
Storm drains are unique because you don't have like water stuff you can hook onto it and trace it. Storms, you don't have anything that you can do that on. You're just kind of guessing where it is. And some of these places like out here on Third Street, there's 3 different pipes and they all come out and get right into the center of the street. And there's no manhole or anything where you can even tell. So it's very, very difficult to do that. We did it after they hit that one up there. We did the whole rest of it all down through to clear down by my shop and mark them all, but
So
some of it was just guesswork.
not to go into specific incidences and occurrences, do we regularly do locates on the storm sewers?
No. I don't even
We
get
do
notifications.
not.
I don't even get notifications of the locates.
I think that's what Rich is referring to, is that we should at least give some consideration to doing it. And if we're not going to do it, what's the reasons why we would not do it?
Well, like I said.
I would like to
It's a
see.
guess, it's a guesstimate where they're at. We don't have any way of exactly tracing them. We do the best we can when it's called for or it's requested. When they were out here on the chamber out here, they asked for you to come up there. And I went through and showed them where there's all that and marked them out. And then they got down to here and they hit the pipes, and then I marked the rest of them all the way down. But I have never actually been sent a locate since I've been here.
Are we
Okay.
marking them on a map once we find them so that we know where they are
We have it
for
all,
future?
we have it all on GPS, at least the manholes and stuff.
Do we,
And we have that all in our system.
Well,
is there a
Ken-
company that
Ken-
use LiDAR to find them? Or do we have anything like a radar or anything
Well-
like that that would locate?
Can the new jetter do that?
What?
Can the new jetter do the locates?
I got no idea. I've had anything to do with the new jetter. We operated the old one, back when they had it, but we have had no training or
Well,
anything else. with
That
that.
may be something we need to look into.
It can
and
go
see if
down
that can
through
be
the,
utilized.
It can go down through there with a camera and stuff, but I don't know if it will
Is it,
send a signal back.
Well, you can follow the camera
Yeah, you can follow the camera.
with the
Yeah,
Yeah.
locator. You can, if they camera it, you can follow the camera from above.
do we see a lot of hits on a storm?
That's the first one I've had in 6
I was just sitting here thinking, now we're taking labor and we're chasing this.
But
How many-
Also, you gotta take into consider, we had 2 or 3 other companies bore through there and never had a problem. Alliance, that was actually, I talked to the guy from Alliance, he was just about ready to throw that company out here because they were just doing a horrible job. But it's the only one that I know in the 6 years I've been here.
When we look at the job descriptions, I would like to see some of them a little bit more fully explained, like number 8 says regularly inspects the city streets, alleys to ensure that it is in proper condition. Well, that could be anything. Another one is handles driveways and sidewalk inspections. What does that mean? I think
That's
that,
probably for building permits.
but don't we have an ordinance that says you can't rock right next to the street?
Yeah, but when then, anytime they do any kind of, digging or anything in the right of way, they have to get a permit in order to do that. Whether it's replacing the sidewalk or putting in a new driveway or whatever,
They're supposed to.
that's what they're supposed to.
I got one
I don't know
on,
what's happening.
like the general labor. Are we still sending people to safety classes and stuff? We paid good money to have what, was it East Iowa, the safety classes for first aid.
We go to the ones like that we need to go to. We did have one during the storm, so we didn't get to go to that one. But other than that, anything that applies, but like we don't go to the lineman's classes and that kind of thing. But yeah, we still go to the class.
Is
I would hope
everybody
we're-
down there doing it, or is there just?
I would hope we're going to any type of state or federally required safety classes, and then anything our insurance company will be providing.
The insurance company ones, they get notices for, but I think a lot of them. have
There's
been
nothing
online.
in here that says it's required, and all it says is adhere to it.
Well, there's certain classes that are required each year, and then there's some that are every other year, and then some of them are required only once too. But
Yeah,
we need to use, we definitely should be utilizing.
I understand. I know, but on that part, it seemed to me like at the time there were only certain people going. Other people would say, no, I don't want to go. And they wouldn't go.
So
Maybe we should
you're
put
saying
something
not
in there.
everybody was going.
Yeah,
Maybe we should put something in there, in theirs, job descriptions. It states that it's a requirement that they take the safety tests that, or safety classes. Yeah,
And like I said, some of them are required each year, some of them are like every other year.
Okay.
And,
but those that are required need to go, period.
and sometimes you can't send everybody at once, but it seems like the same people end up not going every time.
We should be mandatory that they have to take
Sure.
something.
So some of those, what's being pointed out, Beth, are you going to rewrite?
So the department has were tasked with
That's-
rewriting their own
Okay,
job description. So I don't know where that went to. I know I've seen Shelley's in there. I haven't seen there wasn't anything in streets, water, or wastewater.
And I think we need to have those guys get those submitted within the next month at
Oh,
least.
yeah.
And
Definitely.
then have us review them.
on those, I tried to confirm with Jake a little bit on them, because when he went to this new program, he had labor 1, labor 2, and labor 3 for street department. We only have, by the time you take the part-time guy out and the superintendent and the foreman, we only have 3 people. And so I tried to get set up with him, and, what do you want as far as requirements for, labor 1, labor 2, labor 3? And I never get any clarification on that.
Well, at this stage, that labor 1, labor 2, and labor 3 are out the window. So don't worry about them.
Well,
And we just need job descriptions of what people that work there should be doing.
And
yeah, I didn't know that you'd taken that out of equipment.
at this point in time, because that pay scale, we did not utilize this year.
So we probably need to condense those, so there's not such a discrepancy between
Mhm,
the people who work there,
mhm.
because there's not necessarily a difference.
Well, all of your three guys that are in there, because there, as far as I know, there's not a job description for your assistant.
There was one out.
I don't have it in
I-
front of me. so-
I've never seen it.
I haven't seen it, so,
I'll look and see if I can find it.
okay, please do. But then the other three guys basically all do the same task, don't they?
Correct.
Except for you have one who's a mechanic.
Well, we still all do the mechanic work. He does the main amount of work, yeah. He does the main mechanic work, but we also help him too.
Okay, so does he do, because we put that lift in, does he do the oil change for the police department?
We used to, then they stopped bringing them down. We do the water, the wastewater, you know, we did them for a while, but then, I know Jim and Dan and them have brought theirs down, but, I don't know if PD had stopped bringing theirs down, I don't know.
You buying oil in bulk, like in 55
Yeah,
gallon
we were
drums?
buying oil in bulk, 55 gallon.
And you're getting oil filters in bulk for the department and stuff?
Not really, because it's such a garden variety.
Yeah,
You can have two Dodge F-250s, one's a 2014, one's a 2015, they take a damn different filter.
now, if they're buying oil in bulk, they're probably paying somewhere around $5 a quart, maybe a little less than 55 gallon drums. I don't know if you're using synthetic or what, but that can get as much as $10 or $14 a quart. So if they were doing oil changes in-house, it'd be a lot less expensive, even with the cost of the employee that's doing it, because
About 50%.
you can do an oil change in 20 minutes, half hour sometimes, because with the diesels, you have the oil that you have to put in the exhaust system. So the police department, you could probably be doing that. I think we should probably look into that. Some of the more, I'd like to hear something from Jeremiah here about that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let everybody know, we stopped that last year, I want to say spring, maybe something like that. Not to, any of Greg's workers or anything like that, there was a problem, but we had at least 2 occasions where immediately after getting the oil change down there was major mechanical malfunctions. And it wasn't anybody at the street department that caused those.
Yeah.
But taking them into a certified mechanic for just routine oil changes, we're allowing them to get their eyes on the vehicles and say, this may be a problem or that may be a problem. And so we started reverted back to just putting them into regular oil changes through a certified mechanic who's able to catch some of those things.
No, that does make sense. Our service department does a
So that was
complete
the
check.
only one we switched away from doing that.
Yeah, you want to be able to catch the guy you're chasing and not break down halfway through the chase.
Yeah,
So do you feel that it would be better served to take it to a regular service shop?
well, that's what we went to, and again, I make the son change the, oil in our vehicles, it's not, again, anything to their department that they can't do, and oil change is a simple task, and if you just look at the dollars and cents of that particular task, I think you're right, it's probably half the cost, but again, it's very difficult to say, but I know those 2 significant issues were things that I think probably could have been caught.
Yeah.
Had a certified mechanic had their eyes on the vehicle, and so we just made a decision at that time that we'd at least get a new certified mechanic and have their eyes on it at certain intervals to keep them running.
Okay, I do understand that because we have a service shop and people bring cars in for an oil change and it drives in and it drives out. There's times when we tell them they better come back pretty quick.
Well, I mean, if we've got a mechanic working on city vehicles, is there a lack of mechanical? I mean, to me, if they're a mechanic, they should be a mechanic. I mean, it shouldn't be, I only do oil changes and everything else is on.
No, it's more of like he's a laborer, but he does some mechanical work. He's not like any sort of training or anything like that.
Because like I know Bryce or REC or whatever, they have as good or better than what you'd get if you went to a service shop.
Here's a
So,
question. During the year, how many times, let's just take this year for an example. How many times did you have to send vehicles out? Let's just say in your department, and you may know some of the others too, but to have mechanical work done, was it quite often or just?
No, a couple times a year.
Okay. Police department, how often?
I'm not exactly sure, but well more than not often.
And a lot of it just plain maintenance, but some other things.
Yeah.
It might be a good idea to look into hiring a mechanic that's kind of a do-all. It might be cheaper in the long run to have somebody taking care of all the equipment for the city rather than sending that stuff out.
Well, are we gonna have enough business for him?
He doesn't have to just turn wrenches, I think.
Well, I know, but I mean,
But
if you're hiring that quality of a mechanic, you're gonna be paying him some.
I'm just
fairly
thinking out
decent
loud
amount.
right now because I don't have any figures, but well, if we were going to think about something like this, I think we should talk to all the departments, find out what they spent that year and what the problems were on their vehicles, and see if it makes sense. I do know that with the police department now, you're going with this company that is going to rotate cars. And it may not be the problem that we've been seeing because we wouldn't have the maintenance that we would in an older vehicle that we keep. But so that would change too. I don't know. We're kind of getting off the subject here, but
What we can do, we have done the small stuff, not just service. We've done a great job before, water pump starters, all that kind of stuff. The stuff that we can't handle is with all these new electronic systems in the vehicles. You have the right machine to plug in and everything else just to find out what's wrong with.
yeah.
But the small simpler type mechanics, yeah, we can and have done that.
I know last time I was down there visiting with you, you told me about some major projects that you guys did yourselves. It would have cost us a small fortune to have it done outside.
how about like the equipment, the skid loaders, the mowers, that kind of stuff? Do you guys do like the basic maintenance, like oil changes? And
Yeah, the lawnmowers, all that kind of stuff, we take care of. She always changes the oil, doing the service on one, anything mechanical that we can handle, we do all that ourselves. Try to do as much in-house as we can.
Well, I guess what I'd like to see then is in 30 days, have new job descriptions written up for all the departments and have brought to the council for review.
Some kind of an outline, yeah. And I think
And that would be a beginning.
once we get that, then we start the monthly department meetings.
Well, they should start
Start
before
them
that.
now?
They should start 1st of September or sometimes really soon. They need to get into that mode again.
Yeah.
having those meetings.
But I think the first couple of three are probably going to be a little awkward. I mean, you're trying to figure out what you're going to be talking about, what's going to be going on. But once you guys get the feel for each other, I think it'll work out.
I think Beth can conduct the meeting in a satisfactory manner for all concerned.
I believe in that.
is this something that you could just send out like a council memo, just like clip notes where you talk about how it went? Just doesn't have to be long, but just something that, I don't know.
Well, kind of like we were at least getting some updates from Jacob periodically. It could just be an update of, hey, this was discussed at the superintendent's meeting and so forth and so on. And I don't know when their monthly reports are supposed to come in, but
I have them.
okay. But we need to start receiving those again too.
All right, so I just want to recap. Greg, as I'm hearing the council, is they want you to take the roles and responsibilities of the street department. Looks to me like there's two sections, or you have
Yeah,
two,
there's a superintendent and then employee.
okay, and review those and go ahead and, I don't know how you want to do it, strike through or revise and then submit back to Beth within the end of September. And then the council would imagine will either review in a normal business meeting and adopt, or come back with additional requests for revision. I don't, this is a little confused. This isn't a normal business meeting, so we can't make any type of motions. I don't know if we really even need to in this case. Just convey and communicate tonight. I guess you can expect some type of department head or supervisor meetings in the future to restart again. Was there anything else? I know, Kay, you did have some questions a week ago. Were you able to get answers?
Oh, I
Or-
didn't, I was just wondering, I didn't select answers, but I do see that there's a red gate out here, and I know that there was some dirt put in on Mr. Seeley's lawn, and so I assume it's been taken care of.
Okay.
I don't know
Well,
otherwise.
along with your red gate, will that be backfilled at some point in time, the rest of the sidewalk?
But so we get caught up here. We're still hauling brush and pulling hangers, widowmakers and stuff out of trees, and that's what we spent all day doing today. So, yeah, it'll definitely get done.
Because there's some pretty good drop offs on some of the area there, so.
And today when I was,
Fortunately, it was done, you know, the thing was done just shortly before the storm hit, and for the last 2 weeks, that's pretty much all we've concentrated on. And Mr. Wayne Hall and myself had already talked about, putting something up there. It was just a matter of getting to it.
today when I was walking, Mr. Teemer suggested that he would appreciate you're looking again at his tree that's split in half
That's on the list to be taken out.
soon. He's concerned that
As
it
soon as we can get a tree person in town, everybody's in Cedar Rapids and Mount Vernon and everywhere else.
why can't we alleviate some of his discomfort by cutting off parts of it ourselves?
Well, it's split down the middle. If you take one half off, it's gonna make, even though it's not all the way, it's gonna still make that tree very unsafe.
I understand, but we can't take off any of the limbs to keep him from worrying about it splitting off and going into
I'll
his
step
house.
up.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Could we at least, in the meantime, chain it or anything to maybe give it a little bit of support so
We could probably put a chain or a cape or some kind of a ratchet or something around it. I don't think it's an immediate danger, but if we get another dang windstorm, 60 mile an hour, whatever, I mean, I got somewhere around 30 trees on the list now that are gonna have to be brought down. They're gonna be in the city right away and a danger.
So we're going to contract all of that out? Is that what I hear you saying?
No, I didn't say all of them. The ones that we can handle ourselves, we will do ourselves. But anything that's around power lines or major drop your power lines, vehicles, anything like that, that we can't handle ourselves. And we're gonna do it safely. We're gonna bring somebody in with a bucket truck and stuff like that now. Or we're gonna work with them, or when they drop and get them cut up, we can load them up and haul them out and stuff ourselves. So we're gonna be taking some of that responsibility on.
Okay.
And the stumps, when they grind the stumps, we've been over the past couple of years back on them, speeding and stuff like that ourselves.
Your experience in the past, Greg, has it been the city's responsibility to go back in and backfill on some of these sidewalks? I know cities that I've spoken to, they contract, it's all part of the initial contract. with the,
No, we let that out, we do that
Okay.
ourselves, we have the black dirt down here. And, we got the people who just, with the storm, it just set us back 2 weeks. Otherwise, it would have been done by now.
okay. I just inquiring.
So that's just to save us some money. Try to.
Any further discussion?
Well, this is just more or less a question, I guess, but with fall coming up, you see the other communities around, it's like Mount Vernon, Monticello, they do the leaf pickup along the curve. Is that something we could ever do?
Problem with the leaf pickup along the curb, we don't have, they have special machines that do that. And they're a couple $100,000 for the machines to suck them up and stuff like that. We provided the people in place to bring them down there by my shop.
Okay.
So it'd be very, very costly to the city to do that.
It's not something the sweeper can like pick up with,
He picks up some, but we don't allow people to sweep their leaves and stuff out in the street for them to do that, no. It's not that big of a unit for the regular leaf back. It's got to be, 3 to 4 times the capacity with our sweeper. We pick up quite a few of them.
Well, I know one small community that, not of 900 people, that they pick up leaves. They've got a vacuum that they pull behind their dump truck, put sideboards up on the dump truck and just blow it in. And I can almost bet that
You
unit,
stuck them up off the street there.
no, they break them up onto the yard, onto the curb, up to the curb, and they just have the big vac and suck it up, and I can almost guarantee that didn't cost $100,000.
I thought the ones I've ever seen was the bigger truck model with the big hose that comes off the back. But you got it back there.
This is just off a trailer with a back, and it blows it right into the dump truck.
Seen that.
So that may be something that would be worth investigating.
Anything else for Greg? Not? Entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by motion by Alan, second by Galen to adjourn. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to adjourn carried unanimously.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you, everyone.
Surgery and daughter looked at you. That looks great. It's fine, but it just